Hello, this is Scott with SR67 Racing. On my last video, I talked about installing a Star Machine electric vacuum pump, which was the route I needed to go with this car and this motor and so forth. So I'm going to go over a few more things with this, and let me kind of start out. Let me show you again how we've got this rigged up. I said I explained how I was going to plumb this into my canister. So here we have the intake coming into the vacuum pump, and then the exhaust runs into this canister and is plumbed into the canister, and of course there's the breather. I know when I put this on, the front clip of this car, it's a 67 Camaro, was not on the car. So as you can see, it is now. Sure makes it a lot easier when you don't have this whole front end on there. Didn't put anything on the car. But I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to emphasize again that I use number 6 wire to run all the way to the pump, and then there's number 12 wire is used on the pump itself, and it requires a 70 to 75 amp relay. Same with the breaker, 70-75 amp breaker. So I thought surely I might as well run a heavy gauge cable to it, almost like battery size, but it's a number 6. It's the green wire, and I get that at West Marine, but I'm sure auto parts stores you can find that. Just battery cable is essentially what it is. I want to mention here why I went with the electric, because you can kind of see that it's kind of crowded up here already. I have down below, down there, and there's an what am I saying? A manual fuel pump. I have the alternator, and down below, down there, is a belt-driven sump, dry sump oil pump. So again, canister, the oil pump canister, and there's the dry pump right there. The oil pump, belt driven. So there's virtually no room for me to add another belt driven pump. I guess possibly one could be rigged up somewhere out here, but there's just really not much room left on this crank to add any more belt driven gear here. I'm going to go around here and show you where I installed the vacuum gauge. I drilled out in the valve cover and then plumbed in there, and then that of course runs over there, and I'll go into the car and show you that, how that's all plumbed in. And again, it just runs into the car. We're going to go in the car, crank it up, and I'll show you how the vacuum gauge works. Well, I'm sure you know how a vacuum gauge works, but I'll just show you how this one. Kind of cloudy out here today, down here in Florida. Let's see if this helps us. Probably adds a little bit of light to it. So we're going to fire this thing up. I'll start out, I'll just run the vacuum gauge. You can kind of see. There's 5 inches of vacuum. On up to almost 10. Turn that back off. We're going to fire this thing up. It's going to be a little loud, and we'll show you that it pumps, that it vacuums a little more than that when the engine's running. So I turned the vacuum pump back on. Again, they kind of recommend it not running it for any longer than, like, we get in the staging lanes, turn your switch on, and you'll see here that I have a separate switch for the vacuum. It was wired in where every time it came on, the vacuum gauge would start sucking the minute, or vacuuming I should say, when the engine was cranked, but I've got that triggered over so I could just turn it on in the staging lanes. I'm getting up in the staging lanes, and as long as I'm not sitting there too long. And he says, you know, here again, I've ran it for better than 20-30 seconds and I haven't had any wires overheating. Again, I think I showed you in the other video. I'll show again. There's my wiring coming in. That 6 gauge wire running to a 70 amp breaker, a Bosch relay I should say. And at the moment I had actually a 150 amp breaker on there, but I will be installing a 70 amp. I just didn't have one with me at the moment when I was installing this. So, and yes, I revved it up a little bit, but just to kind of show you that it holds its vacuum. But I had already been running the motor, so the engine was already warmed up, so I wouldn't normally rev it up that much until it's warmed up a little bit already. But again, I'll add some more videos to some future things. I want to kind of explain. I built a little shroud here for my oil cooler, transmission oil cooler, to kind of collect more air. Put a fan on that. I had installed a transmission oil pump on there, just to kind of to in between runs in the pits where I can circulate the transmission fluid through the oil cooler, just to kind of help cool that transmission oil down in between runs there. But again, this is Scott with SR67 Racing, and I'll be on in the future with some more videos and some more little things that I've been doing to the car. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.